Hello, America. Welcome to your Leo Nation, where we believe in and support the rule of law. I am the Chief, Mark Garrett. Joining us today is our good friend and producer. No, wait a minute. I know some people are watching this right now. They're confused. You said, wait a minute. Am I watching Married with Children? Is that Bud Bundy? No, that's Anthony Jackson after he goes to Supercuts and takes a shower. This is what happens. He starts looking like a human. So welcome, Anthony.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you, Mark.
Well, we appreciate you too. Appreciate you putting up with my crap, but that's what good friends do with each other. I can't tell people what you say about me off air. So it will probably get us more shadow ban than we already experiencing right now. So we'll be careful with
Right?
that, right? Well, I tell you right now, Anthony, there is so much to get into about our favorite state in the union, and because the 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 evidence is clear. The evidence is clear that California is the model. California is the model for, I mean, it's really kind of paradise on earth from top to bottom, every aspect one could dream of, could hope for, could imagine their wildest dreams. California is doing it right. Am I correct
hmm
about that?
The weather here, the people here. I mean, the uh,
Well,
you're
see, you're right.
100%
The
correct about
weather,
it. I mean,
most of the people, and then we ran out of
yeah.
examples. Anyway, well, I'll tell you right now, we do have plenty of examples of what's going on in California, what's so right, what's so perfect, and how that state and the elected officials there are leaders and examples of what everybody in the other 49 states wish to become one day when they grow up. So let's hop right into it. And, we decided we're not even going to put a beginning or end as far as order of topics here because there's so many juicy ones. So I want to start with this. This is the leader, the elected leader of California, Gavin Greasy Hair Newsom. And Anthony, we talked about this. It's been in the news, but I made a few ancillary notes surrounding this topic. And the topic is concerning the missing dollar bills surrounding the homeless mitigation efforts in California. And have you had a chance to read that article?
Yeah, I was a little confused though because every time I hear our great leader speak, he always says that there's a plan going on, and I don't. Is that fake news?
Well, you know what? It probably depends on what news you watch to determine if what you just read and what he said is fake news. So it's a kind of a complicated process, but I would tend to say that it's fake news based on what the evidence shows. So let's just get into this a little bit here. So this is from, I think it's AOL. Oh, Independent. Amelia Neath is the author of this fine piece. Gavin Newsom confronted a press conference about missing $24 billion spent on tackling homelessness. And this article was just several days ago. The article is from May 13th, and I know many of you have seen this. But if you haven't read it, let me give you a couple of or watched some of the video. It really was stunning. It was almost, well, listen, from my point of view, it's always painful to watch Gavin Newsom. But what was different in this press conference, and we might put some of the video up. It's kind of lengthy. I mean, the
hmm
part that I'm talking about, it's about 2 minutes long, where he goes into this rambling nonsense.
Yeah, I can fast forward it where he's just talking nonsense
Well, that's
and
it.
then get to the part where he actually tries to really swerve away
Yeah.
from it.
So you can put that up there, Anthony, so people can see it for themselves if they haven't seen it already, because it really is painful to watch. And one of the reasons it's painful to watch, whether you love Newsom or hate Newsom, no one, I don't think anybody could ever honestly say that the guy is not usually very confident in front of the camera. You may not believe what he says. I don't believe what he says, but he's very confident. He's very slick. He's very polished, and he can talk and talk and talk and not say a damn thing that makes sense or that's real. But he's very, very polished.
Do you acknowledge, Governor, is your administration doing enough to determine whether the money that's being plowed into homelessness is being well spent? And do you worry? I'm curious. Do you worry that the appetite is souring among the public for spending more, given the lack of progress that's happening?
No, I appreciate the question and the frame. It's if the legislature embraces it in the next few weeks.
I'm sorry, Governor, I didn't hear responses to either of those questions about whether this is state money ultimately. I understand it goes to the counties, but do you acknowledge whether the money that the state isn't doing enough to ensure that the money is being well spent? I also didn't hear a response to whether you think that there's any, I mean, is the public appetite, do you think, I'm hearing this, like souring towards putting more money into I didn't hear responses to either of those.
Well, and forgive me, I'll if I appear to repeat the first response. So the audit did not surprise me.
This is the first time I can remember seeing this man where he looked, he looked terribly uncomfortable. I don't know if that means that he was just taken aback when he got the numbers right before this press conference or this audit that happened in the legislature. He just wasn't prepared, or if there was something else going on in his life. I have no idea. But you watch that video, it was crazy. So let me just pull up a couple of pieces here from this article from May 13th. California's Governor Gavin Newsom was confronted while being probed at a press conference over his state's spending of $24 billion to tackle homelessness. Anyway, I won't start editorializing now. You know me. Mr. Newsom led a conference on Friday announcing that California's budget deficit is at least $45 billion and proposed various spending cuts to state workers, worker jobs, education programs, and health services. I want to stop right there. And Anthony, chime in whenever I catch a breath if you want to. But here's the thing. So $24 billion, I'm going to get into a little more. $24 billion to tackle homelessness is over the last 5 years. So let's just say 5 billion plus or 4 billion plus a year to quote unquote tackle homelessness. What's happened over that time frame and before that even, but certainly those last 5 years, what's happened to homelessness in California? Has it gone down, Anthony, or has it increased?
I mean, the numbers say increase, and my own eyes show that it increased. I mean, I'm seeing them more than ever
Of
now,
course.
which is crazy. I mean, we spent the most money we spent in years, and we have more of it. I mean, it goes back to that old adage: if you're throwing more money at it, you're going to get more of it. It makes sense.
100%. And you paraphrase one of my heroes, and he truly is one of my heroes, Ronald Reagan. You paraphrase part of what we said about government and about, subsidizing either private activities or subsidizing certain behaviors. You get more of it, Anthony. You're 100%.
Mhm.
Now, this is 24. Remember, this is $24 billion that no one knows what happened to, where it was spent. And I'll document that with this article in a minute. But I want you to think about $24 billion to fight homelessness, whether it's lost, which is just a travesty, it's unforgivable, or it's used properly. I want to compare that to a couple of numbers out of California. And when this man, and I've been saying it since last year, I said, if he gets a chance, he's going to run for president this year. So far, it looks like Biden is going to stay in his diapers and on his walker, and he's going to keep on stumbling towards debate with Donald Trump and the nomination and an election on November 5th. I don't think that Newsom at this point is going to have a crack that he can exploit, but he will run the next time around for president. And we look at these numbers, ladies and gentlemen, we look at his stellar management of California. You have to keep asking yourself, is this the person or any person like him philosophically and policy wise, the person that you want in the Oval Office? You have to ask yourself this. And Anthony, going back to seeing things through your own eyes, I talk to friends and family in California quite a bit. Matter of fact, I just spoke with someone, a family member yesterday, about this same thing, about Newsom and what happened to $24 billion and so forth and so on. And this person who I love dearly said, well, Mark, that kind of stuff happens all the time because this person, this
Normalizing it.
person is not of the same political philosophy that I am. And, I reply with, I understand this. This is one of the reasons. One of my mantras is that the best government is the smallest government. The best government is the smallest government. Why? Because anytime you elect people and now they become stewards of your tax dollars, you can damn well be sure there's going to be waste. There's going to be inefficiency. Government is a necessary, and I mean that it's necessary. I want government. We have to have government. It's the only way to run a society, but it's a necessary evil. It's something we can't get around. We have to utilize government as prescribed in the Constitution and the various states. But if that's true, if even I, a conservative person, will acknowledge that we have to have government and that government is by nature wasteful, you want to keep that to a minimum. $24 billion. We're not talking about $100,000 that goes missing or misappropriated or poorly spent, on a county level or something. We're talking about $24 billion. So let me tell you this. So California's budget, I think Newsom came out with it in January of this year, 24. I think the budget for California, according to their own website, is $291 billion for California. Now think about this. They've lost on average, they don't even know what's happened for the last 5 years, about $4 billion a year they have lost. They don't know what happened to it. Matter of fact, before I give these numbers, let me, just so you know, I'm not speaking out of my rear end here, so forth and so on, blah, 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 whatever. In a state audit released in early April, it was revealed that California spent $24 billion to tackle homelessness over the past 5 years, yet it did not consistently track how exactly the huge sum of money helped the homeless crisis. They don't know what they did with the money. I watched this audit, this hearing in the legislature a few days ago. I mean, I'm not sure when the hearing took place. A few days ago, I watched it. And the people responsible for this, there were various representatives of various charities in front of, during this hearing. And do you know what their answer was, Anthony, in case you didn't see this? And everybody listening, they blamed the lack of tracking of this $24 billion on a software glitch. This is what we're dealing with. Now, keeping those numbers in mind, $24 billion last 5 years, $4 billion a year. For those of you who went to public school, I'll do the division for you. Think about this. The California Highway Patrol's budget this year, if the website's correct, I just looked up here a little while ago, $3.2 billion, as opposed to $4 billion a year over the last 5 years that the state of California can't account for as far as how the money was spent and what, if any, benefit that was gained through that expenditure. Obviously not Anthony, like you said earlier on, homelessness just continues to grow. And again, even those people I talk to in California that don't agree with me politically, they all admit, I won't go to downtown LA anymore. I won't go to San Francisco anymore. I won't go here anymore.
Right.
Every place I go, it's getting worse and worse and worse. The same people keep voting for the people that are making this problem worse. So
May I ask you
you
something?
may, it'll give me a chance to catch my breath.
Those people that were talking, did they, by any chance, show their salaries?
No, it's a good question. You're talking about in this audit hearing? It's a
Yeah.
great question. And I probably watched about 2 or 3 minutes of it and really focused around the computer glitch statement, at least from one of the people. But someone else made the great point, Anthony. In other words, if we can't track exactly where this money went and what it was used for, how do we know that it wasn't diverted into the pockets of individuals? I have no idea. but no,
Well,
go ahead. No,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was going to say, well, I seen one of the ladies speaking. She was, her salary was $479,000 a year,
I did not know this.
and $500,000. Okay. And that's not including benefits and, other stuff. I worked as a Chipotle manager years back when Chipotle was good. This is pre 2020. All right. Now it's crap. It's total crap. But
And it makes you crap,
I was
apparently.
responsible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. So I was responsible for that store's budget and, the inventory. And I wasn't getting paid $500,000 a year, but I was able to do it. I was responsible enough to do it correctly too and do my job well. Okay. She's getting paid $500,000 a year. But again, what you said about government, how it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, right? At some point, we got too much fat. There's managers, managing managers, managing managers, managing managers. And each one is getting paid six figures, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year to manage this homeless crisis in which we have, how much did you say again? Missing?
$24 billion unaccounted for as far as how it was spent and if there was any benefit in the expenditure itself.
Okay, and these are grown adults. Keep in mind, I was a young man doing that. And of course, it's smaller scale. I'm not doing, state budgets, but still, it's the same concept, same ability to go, hey, we spent this much, we got this much back. It's a P&L.
It,
And it's kind of the same system for managing a government budget. And these grown adults that are supposedly better than you and I at managing this stuff have misappropriated billions of dollars. I mean, that could have funded the Ukraine war for a couple months.
yes.
If you're for it.
Yes, it could have. Exactly.
That's
for a
crazy.
couple of months. And of course, most of the money would have gone into private pockets as well.
Zelensky?
Yeah, but at least we would know where it was going. Anthony, you make such a good point. And, I want people to really appreciate what you said. It doesn't matter what level one may be at in government or the private sector. I understand that things get far more complicated and complex as budgets get larger, they're more diversified, things like this, but the principles are the same. If one is assigned to manage a budget, that's what they're supposed to do, legally and ethically, to manage a budget. Here's what's happened in California. Here's what's happened in the federal government. And by the way, by both parties, this is not exclusive to one party or another. But in California, of course, we are talking about one party. It's one party rule in California. So those people who want to say, well, it happens every place and blah, 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 and these mindless, meaningless statements that don't actually confront the reality. In California, it is literally impossible to blame anybody other than someone with a D in front of their name if they're an elected official, because it's a supermajority Democrat rule in California. It's been that way for a long time. There's not one statewide elected Republican in the state of California, not one. So office. So this is what happens when people get comfortable with no pushback, no confrontation, no challenging, no one to hold you accountable, either politically, publicly, or legally. It's when the entire system is run by one party that's working in lockstep. This is the crap that happens. And ladies and gentlemen, if $24 billion not being able to be accounted for is not enough for you to realize that, I don't think that anything will. You have to get out of your comfort zone and stop saying, well, I've always voted this way, I've always supported this party. You have to start taking personal responsibilities for the crap hole that the people you have elected have created in the once most beautiful, desirable state in the union, and sadly, it no longer holds either of those titles, specifically because of the party and the individuals that have run that state into the ground for the last couple of decades. So what I wanted to continue with the budget comparison, or the budget priority is more accurate, Anthony.
You know what?
Yes.
Before we move on from
Oh,
Gavin
we're not
Newsom,
moving on from Gavin Newsom.
okay, all right. I just wanted to give him some credit.
Oh, wait a minute. Hang on.
You
Wait.
mind if I
hang
do
on.
that real quick?
Let me write the date down here. And Anthony Jackson. Hang on. Credit. This will be for the lawsuit where I actually have to go and get therapy because you're going to say this. Hang on. All right, sis.
No, you got to give him credit. He was truthful right here. He says Gavin Newsom calls California a national model for homelessness.
You know what? On that.
Oh, wait. I misread it. On fighting homelessness. Never mind. He totally lied. I thought he was truthful at first. I misread the headline.
Can anybody, let's just try to say it with a straight face. Gavin Newsom stands by his statement that California is a model for fighting homelessness. And we all believe that. Yes, we do. Oh my God. And the earth is flat. Can anybody living in the state of California, especially in the metropolitan areas, we talk about all the time, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Sacramento, unfortunately even San Diego, which has done a pretty good job on a local level dealing with homelessness, but Oakland, you go on and on and on. Can anybody living in California in general, and specifically those areas, can they say that California, and by the way, and Newsom's strategy is a model for the rest of the country? Anthony, can they really say that honestly?
I mean, delusional is just the lightest word you can
Well,
choose,
delusional was the word
honestly.
that was used by a California elected official, a Republican, describing
Yeah, that was I believe Kevin Kiley. Yep.
Now, listen, many types of models are really, really good for playing strategies. This is certainly a model of what not to do. So if you can figure out how to invert this and go 180 degrees in the other direction, you will be successful at managing and mitigating homelessness in your state. So
It's almost guaranteed at that point. Yeah. Yeah, just do everything the opposite of what we're doing here, and you'll be sitting good.
You're sure to succeed. I mean, you probably wouldn't have one homeless person in your state if you just invert this model.
Yeah.
I think it's something else. But like I said, we won't stray from the brilliant Gavin Newsom for a little
Good.
bit. And
I love talking about that.
well,
guy.
you know
He's
what?
my
He
favorite.
deserves to be talked about, and often and truthfully. And the fact is, when you talk about Gavin Newsom and his policies and his, I'll put the word in quotes, leadership in California, there are not very many positive ways. In fact, I can't think of a positive way to speak about him politically. So he's the governor. He's the chief executive of California. He is the commander in chief of California. His first role, like any commander in chief, governor, of course, the president, is the safety and security of the people that he or she represents. That's your first responsibility. I'll say it again. It's your first responsibility to ensure the safety and security of the people that you represent, the people that elected you to office. And when we talk about these numbers, that they've been losing $4 billion, I say losing, they don't know where it went, they don't know how it was used, so forth and so on. And Newsom could not articulate it in the video that you can watch here that Anthony's going to link to. And at the same time, about the 7,000 uniform strong California Highway Patrol has a budget this year of about $3.2 billion. By the way, Newsom and his other brilliant minions in Sacramento reduced the CHP's budget from last year to this year by about $86 million. while they continue to throw untold billions, and I mean literally untold because they don't know where much of it went or how it was used, into quote unquote fighting homelessness. Ladies and gentlemen, in California, this is where the priorities of your legislature, your elected officials at the state level, and Gavin Newsom lie. And by the way, when you say where Gavin Newsom's priorities lie, that's a good word to use regarding Gavin Newsom because he does that a lot. He does that a lot when he says that California is a model for mitigating homelessness. That's a lie. There's no way to soften that blow. There's not another word. Untrue, that's misinformation, it's misleading, well, it's not completely accurate. No. Everybody who lives there, you can be Gavin Newsom's biggest fan, and you know when he says that, it's not true. I just changed my own words here to be nice about it. You know it's not real.
He's gaslighting, which is even worse because he's trying to change the narrative in front of our face when we know he's telling us the sky is yellow when it's blue, and he's like, no, it's yellow. It is.
Yes. That's exactly what he's doing.
Look for yourself.
Exactly what he's doing. So, like I said, we stay on Gavin Newsom for a while because there's so much there, but we can stay with Gavin Newsom because Gavin Newsom is it's synonymous. Anything statewide in California, as far as laws, are almost always synonymous with Gavin Newsom because he's pretty much in lockstep with the people in the legislature in California. So with that said, Anthony, I would love to talk about this brilliant, and man, what a brilliant idea it is to help the economy in California, to really make the lives of Californians better, reducing budget costs, the individual family, and by the way, in industry, private sector. He and his minions there in California are proposing a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful solution to some of the economic pressures that are happening in California. You want to talk about that when it comes to gasoline?
Oh, you're talking about the gas tax that's coming?
Yes, because Anthony, if there's one thing that you and I dream of,
He's taking on big oil,
what's that?
and he's taking on big oil.
He's taking on big oil, all right. Yeah, he's taking them on a big way because let's see, how does it work when you tax a product? The manufacturer, producer of that product passes the cost on to.
You better not say me.
Oh, you know what? I
You better
am.
not say me.
And everybody else like you in California, who actually pays for anything. That's what happens to it.
Damn it.
So, do you have an article up there, Anthony? I think it's from Fox TV. It's local there, and I think probably Sacramento or something, about the gas tax. If not, I have it right here.
Yeah, go ahead.
So let me give you this. For those of you who don't live in California, first of all, you're blessed, like I am. Sorry, Anthony. But this is an article from Sharon Song, local Fox 2, KTVU in California someplace. And the headline here is California gas prices could spike 50 cents under climate offset idea. 50 cents, by the way, 50 cents a gallon. Just to make sure for those of you who went to public school or might be in an Ivy League school nowadays, you may not understand how gas tax works. Sacramento, California's already high gas prices could see an additional spike of almost 50 cents a gallon tucked inside a little-known draft report aimed at meeting the state's aggressive emission reduction goal. You know what? Why does everything detrimental to taxpayers, to people who work their asses off every day, why does everything proposed that it's going to hurt them more? Why is it always little known? Why is it tucked way back in the dark recesses of the chambers of the legislature, whether it's California or Washington D.C., because they don't want people to know about it until it's too late. The California Air Resources Board, or CARB, ironically, carbon anyway, is the state's regulating body charged with implementing the most ambitious climate action of any jurisdiction in the world. Achieve carbon neutrality by 2040. 45. Anthony, now again, I know it, even in this episode, I always try to make things law enforcement related. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be, it's not a rule, but I make an effort because it is called your law enforcement officer nation. All of these things have an effect on public safety, in my humble opinion. All of these things. When you tax people more and more and more, it reduces the energy in the economy. It hurts budgets.
Mhm.
Budgets that should be primarily, certainly, firstly spent on public safety. And I remember the stat from forever ago. This is back in the early 1990s. I heard a commissioner of the California Highway Patrol say that for every penny a gallon, I want you to think about this, ladies and gentlemen, and this is why it's so important to law enforcement or any other public safety or public infrastructure. For every penny a gallon that gas prices rise, it costs the California Highway Patrol $100,000 more a year to operate for every 1 cent a gallon. These are the types of impacts that these proposed policies have on the ability of law enforcement and other legitimate public agencies trying to make the lives of individuals better, has on those entities. So this is all part of the carbon neutral crap, and we could do a show for hours on carbon neutrality and carbon this and that. I was having this discussion on Facebook a couple of days with some friends of mine. They're friends of mine, but they think that cow farts and me using my gas stove are going to have us all burn up in the next 6 months. These people are delusional, just like Newsom is. They're delusional. They're delusional.
Did you let them know that they're the carbon that the elites want them to reduce?
100%. And of course, then their eyes go all cockeyed because they don't know what to do with that. They don't know. Oh, you know what happens is when I tell them that, they get so upset they start farting more out of the nerves, and they increase the carbon footprint. So it's a very dangerous situation.
It's a vicious cycle.
It is a
almost.
vicious cycle.
Jeez.
But this is it's ludicrous. Now, California, I think I read in the same article, Anthony. California is already the highest tax state as far as individual state income tax. Think of right now it's 13.3%. And for the 2024 year, it's the top marginal tax rate. I think it's going up to 14 point something, over 14% tax rate. I was also looking at some numbers here. And ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening, but this is important when it comes to public safety and when it comes to the health of this country. The budget, the $291 billion, almost half of that, if I got my numbers right here, almost half of that California budget is covered by personal income tax in California. I mean,
wow.
This is it was well over 100 and something $1 billion, well over. And somebody can go ahead and fact that check for me. I'm looking for that right now, but I remember reading that earlier today before we went on air. That's how much.
You know what's a little upsetting?
Say that again, Anthony.
I was going to say, you know what's upsetting is just thinking about all of that money, what it could be doing for us, actually. How it could actually be helping us instead of just being misappropriated in the best terms, right?
Misappropriated.
And then I was going to ask you, so if the gas tax, every penny it goes over costs $100,000,
for
right?
Highway Patrol.
And for the Highway Patrol, it goes up 50 cents, yet they cut the Highway Patrol's budget down. So what does that mean for public safety?
Well, it's a double whammy.
The costs are going up and they're cutting the budget. Does that mean There's going to be less highway patrol, less policing, etc.
Well, you would have to assume so. I mean, that's where logic would take
Okay.
you. That's exactly right.
Mhm.
It's a good observation, and you actually boil it down to something clearer than I'm rambling about. That's exactly right. Now, again, this 50 cent a gallon, 50 cent a gallon, um, is a proposal. So it's not gone into effect yet. But here's the thing, California, who's going to stop them exactly? What
Right.
what Democrat who's afraid of gas stoves and cow farts is going to say no to the carbon neutrality 50 cent?
They're going to agree with it.
Yeah, exactly. Who's going to say no to it? And of course, the goal is, they're trying to get rid of electric cars by 2040, whatever it is in California, and they literally
Gas
cannot keep the
cars.
lights on now. I'm sorry, I said electric cars. They're trying to get rid of the internal combustion engine in California.
Well, yeah, they ask us to not run our ACs or lights or anything that's taxing during certain times of the day. I just can't imagine when everybody has to charge their cars at a certain time. I mean, is that the new like rush hour type of thing? Like you better charge your car before the grid goes down? I don't know.
Well, the phrase you can't imagine, that's literal. I don't think anybody, including the lawmakers, Anthony,
Right.
can imagine how to achieve this goal, this lofty goal, backwards goal, for sure. They can't imagine. They can't even build the stupid bullet train from the San Fernando Valley to wherever it was going to go, to San Francisco. That's been in the works for how many decades now? They can't build that, but they're going to build an infrastructure in California that can charge 40 million vehicles, ladies and gentlemen. If my memory serves me correct from when I lived there, when I patrolled there, somewhere around 40 million cars in California. Somehow, with an infrastructure, and I use that word loosely for California, in an infrastructure, like you said, Anthony, that can't supply enough energy in the summertime to keep the lights on, and they ask you to turn your air conditioner or your light off, or they have rolling brownouts, things like this. How in the hell do they expect to be able to charge 40 million cars every single day? They don't have a solution. And if they do, here's it again. And here I am. I'm kind of digressing a little bit because it's just too tempting for me to resist. I'm sorry. These people, these elected officials, these masterminds who know it all, who know way better than you do how to run your life and what's good for you. These people are proposing a system to charge 40 million cars, plus all of the homes, plus all of the industry, the schools, the jails, everything in California, with a system that, at least up until the time of the taping of this show, relies on fossil fuels to produce the energy. It's
Are you kidding me?
It's true. I looked it up. It was on Wikipedia. I saw it on Google.
So you're telling me the electricity is coming from the fossil fuels that we're trying to ban?
I know it's hard to believe, but it's the way things work. Oh, by the way, they can go ahead and put some more windmills up out in the ocean and kill whales and endangered species birds. They can do that. I think that's a price like about 2 or 3% of the electricity. Other than that, yes, they have to use dead dinosaurs that they put in turbines to make steam to make electricity. Yes. These people, like I said in the other article about his homeless efforts, Newsom and the other elected officials are delusional. They have a goal. They have this goal. By the way, the goal is based on completely, in my opinion, erroneous information and quote unquote facts about the effects of carbon and on the environment. But again, that's another encyclopedia to talk about. But they have this goal, and the goal is not tethered to any path whatsoever. it would be as if I say, you know what, next week I am going to be, because that's what we're saying, right? What is the year 2040, 2045, whatever the year is, the next, 10, 15 years, whatever it is, that they are going to be carbon neutral in California, that they're going to have all EVs in California, but without any path, any plan. That would be like me saying a week from Saturday, I am going to win the Mr. Olympia competition. That's it. That's my goal. I've already decided. Well, Mark, you're 60 years old, almost 61, and you work out a little bit, 3 days a week. Now, what's your goal to be that big and that strong? Well,
You do look like Claude Van Damme.
well, that's
now.
true too. Yeah. Don't bother me with the details. I'm just going to be the world champion, bodybuilder in about 10 days or whatever it is. And I know it sounds like an extreme example, but ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's no more extreme.
Then you ask for billions.
What's that?
To help your plan out. Then you ask for billions to help your plan out that you're not going to tell
That's
anybody.
you're not going to tell anybody. That's exactly right. But it's no more extreme than what they're trying to do in California, or they're supposed to do. There's no path. There's no infrastructure. There's none. And there's nothing. In the meantime, they're cutting money from law enforcement, not just the California Highway Patrol, but of course that's my pride and joy, the CHP. And this is where their priorities are, ladies and gentlemen. This is where their priorities lie. So, Anthony,
I don't know.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't know if you've heard about that NASA is building a railroad on the moon. Have you heard about that?
Is it?
I heard it's going to cost less than the railroad here that we're building. I don't know how that's possible.
You know what?
I mean, we got to transport everything to the moon and then have people go to the moon and build it over there. And it's going to cost less money than the one that we have here, that we have like this much done.
Here's why I'm laughing so hard. It's because this is the truth, the God's honest truth. I have no idea if what you're telling me is a joke or if it's true.
I don't know either. Honestly, I don't. I really don't. It just popped in my head right now. I don't know.
By the way, I think it would probably cost less to build a railroad from NASA to the moon, from Cape Canaveral to the Sea of Tranquility. I think it'd probably be cheaper than almost anything that California does. I would say NASA probably wouldn't lose $24 billion, but I don't know. Who knows what's going on? But the gas tax, the homelessness, those are just two of the examples of, we'll just say, money mismanagement, to make it simple for everybody. But I think, Anthony,
if I did that at Chipotle years ago, I would have probably been arrested for stealing.
Well, you would have, or here's the thing, you would have certainly been fired for mismanagement, would you not? Yeah,
Definitely.
you would have been fired. You would have been fired by the people who want to turn a profit for Chipotle, and rightly so. But when you're an elected official spending other people's money, that's as easy as breathing. Well, for some people, not for all elected officials, but in mass as a whole, it is. There are those people out there who consider taxpayer money their own money, as far as that's how they take care of it. That's how careful they are with it. They understand that somehow work. But unfortunately, that is not the norm. That is the exception. One more example of that norm, I think, Anthony, and I want you to tackle this one, is the brilliant, and I mean absolutely, I don't know why you and I didn't think of this, or nobody else thought about this until now, but the brilliant program they have going on in San Francisco. It seems so commonsensical.
They have a lot.
Huh?
I don't know which one you're talking about. They have a bunch of brilliant programs.
Well, first of all, they're all brilliant, right? I mean, they're all brilliant. Pay people to live on the street and to, not charge somebody because they're wrong. I mean, they have a lot of brilliant programs there, but there's one there for people who are a little thirsty. Does that ring a bell? Does that ring a bell with the free beer I'm talking about?
The free beer.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the free beer for the alcoholics?
That's the one. Now, again,
Oh my
what could make more sense? What could be more
God.
productive? What could better pave a road to redemption and recovery than taxpayers giving beer, by the way, and vodka to people who are addicted to alcohol? I mean, am I wrong here, or is that a brilliant idea?
I mean, I thought that's how you treat alcoholics. You just set up a keg right there, their own personal one, and they drink until they're sick of it,
Yeah.
right? Something
As a
like
matter
that.
of fact, I that's exactly right. You drink until they're sick, they go to sleep, and so
Okay.
problem is solved for about 7 or 8 hours till they wake up, right? So there really is a partial solution to the problem, I'd say. I mean, this is akin, and we'll give you a couple of facts on this if you haven't heard about it, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, it's just too good to be true. But I want you to think about this. This is akin to really just giving a diabetic 4 boxes of Seath candy every day. I mean, it is, and I say that because, by the way, I have a number of friends who are diabetic, and we understand what it takes to stay healthy and take care of yourself. The same should be true, you would think, for someone suffering from alcoholism, an addict that you don't want to do more harm. But in California, in San Francisco, the rules are a little inverted from what we would call reality in the rest of the known universe. So let me pull that one up here. There are so many beautiful ones, but the title is San Francisco Taxpayers Forced to Fund Free Alcohol for Homeless. And this one also talks about the high tax rates in California, what I already touched on. They're all intertwined. And by the way, yes, it was 14.4% will be going up this year. So about the beer and alcohol, is city public officials, public health officials argue the program's benefits, citing emergency room declines, savings from reduced hospital visits, and relief for the city's already strained emergency services. I don't even know. I read this article and I can't find a correlation or a cause and effect of why there might be reduced emergency room visits for alcoholics who are getting more alcohol from the city of San Francisco. That one I can't figure out. I don't know if you have any insight to that, Anthony, or any thoughts about why that might be true. I can come up with a couple of guesses. I think that maybe if someone is going through withdrawals, or if someone is some person is drinking someplace else and they lie down the street, maybe they're picked up, maybe they're taken to a hospital. Who knows what's going on, as opposed to staying in this building where they're getting free
Right.
alcohol, they're getting free vodka, they're getting free beer. Maybe they stay put in one place. I don't know what the reason is, but the idea that giving more alcohol to an alcoholic is some type of a better health outcome, this could only happen in California, maybe some other states. But right now, actually, New York would be a really good candidate as well. Do you have any thoughts on this brilliant plan?
Well, here, I'm going to read a quote from the article right here, and then it gets into something, kind of what you said. So it says, quote, inside the lobby, you're talking about a former hotel that houses a program, okay? Inside the lobby, they had kegs set up to taps where they're basically giving out free beer to the homeless who've been identified with alcohol use disorder. He wrote, it sets up people in the program just walk in, grab a beer, and then another one all day. Providing free drugs to drug addicts doesn't solve their problems. It just stretches them out. Quote, Nathan continued, where's the recovery in all of this? So this guy is questioning too, where's the recovery in it? And then at the bottom, it says He noted in his post that there's a harm reduction approach called safe supply, that some areas like Canada's British Columbia used to provide free opioids to users so they don't overdose on fentanyl. Now, that I do see because they're giving free opioids that aren't laced with fentanyl, but alcohol is just alcohol.
Yeah.
And you can't trick them with alcohol percentage and say, hey, this is with 10%, this is vodka 10% or
Right.
whatever. I don't know. I don't drink, so I don't know. But you can't really trick them with that because it's just alcohol. So I don't understand at all how they think that this is going to be a good idea. And, I wish they had like some kind of slideshow of the people that put this idea together and sold it to the politicians there. I don't know. I wish they had something like that so we could see what the idea was in their head, but that's not here.
Well,
So
you know what? Ideas in their heads, kind of an oxymoron. I don't think they have ideas. I think they have visions. They have visions of uh, paradise, this perfect world, and things like this. I'll tell you right now, this one here, and I know we've been having a lot of fun with this, but this one, as silly as it is, and silly is an understatement, as destructive as this is, this one example may be the most poignant. It may be the best example of the degradation, the governing body and bodies in California. And the reason is this, Anthony. It's because we as a nation, certainly, and this does go back to the rule of law. This does go back to your Leo nation. All of these things are intertwined. When you increase the homeless population, when you stop putting people in prison for crimes that should be going to prison for, or letting them out sooner than they should be out, all of these things relate to a civil society. They relate to the rule of law. They relate to accountability. They relate to consequences for your actions. All these things. And this example here, again, I think it's certainly today probably the best one that we could talk about. And here's the reason. I remember years ago, I'll bring this back to, personal level. This is 30 years ago. My mom had he was a distant cousin. He was quite a bit younger than my mom, and he was an alcoholic. And very nice guy, by the way. Very, very nice guy. And one day my mom called him up to help me and my older sister move out of her current apartment to a new apartment. And so she called up this relative and he came over. And I had been on the job at the High Shoal just a few years at the time. So I was kind of in tune to noticing certain things, especially when it came to impairment. And I could tell right away that he smelled of alcohol, an alcoholic beverage to be precise. Alcohol has no smell. And I could see his mannerisms. Now, he wasn't falling down drunk, whatever, but you could tell that he was a little high from booze. And great guy, did a lot of work that day for us. And I remember my mom telling me, she's like, you know what, I got to go out and get so-and-so a beer. And I said, why? She said, well, he's an alcoholic. He needs that beer. He has to have that beer. And I'm thinking, first of all, what's his problem? That was my first thought.
mm-hmm.
But second, I'm thinking, why, mom? Again, that's why my mom was a very loving lady, things like that. But I'm thinking, why would you perpetuate the behavior? Now, I knew that if she had sent him home without a beer, if he had left or whatever, that he was going to stop me at a six-pack the first corner he could and probably drink it in the car. It wasn't like my mom's denial or not facilitating his addiction was going to change his life. It's not my point at all. But the question is, why would you become a part of it? Why would you be a facilitator?
Mm-hmm.
And now we have, at least on a local level, and I'm sure it's probably not really pushed back against much by anybody in an elected way in California. Why would you as a city become the facilitator of a behavior, of a very dangerous vice, of a disease, of alcoholism. If you want to call it a disease, I'm fine with that. These people are addicted to the substance, to alcohol. And the way to increase the chances of them living longer and having a more productive life is not to give them more of the substance, the alcohol, that is retarding their ability to grow and prosper. The way it is, the way to do it is to deny them that and then hold them accountable. You use these funds, what is it, $5 million? Pardon me, whatever it is, Anthony. Those funds could be used for,
It's
listen,
5 million.
hey, if you come to our shelter, if you come to our rehab center, we're going to pay. We'll keep you there for a couple of months and we're going to pay. We're going to work with you. We're going to get you a program to get you off of alcohol, a 12-step program, and we'll follow up with you. These are things that we're going to do because as a city, as a community, as a society, as a government, we know that consuming alcohol to the point where your faculties are demeaned and your liver is rotting is not good for you. More importantly, it's not good for the civil society. This is where California and so many other states has lost or have lost their souls. They have lost their ability to put the civil society, to put consequences, to put the rule of law first. They have lost their ability to do this because they want to go along to get along, and they want everybody to be their friend, period. So I know we've started off with the kind of a lighthearted aspect on this and then the ridiculousness of it all, and it certainly is. But there's a much darker side to this. There's a much more emblematic, a much more indicative side to this. And it indicates the lack of ability of these elected officials to call strikes and balls. This is right. This is wrong. And if you engage in a certain behavior, we as a society refuse to perpetuate that behavior. We will stop the behavior with negative consequences to the best of our ability. That's my take on it, Anthony. I'm going to give you the last word for today's podcast. It's been a lot of fun, but I want you to go ahead and close it out for us.
Yeah, when you brought up the 5 million going towards something, that would actually help, it triggered something in my head. I remember that the Proposition 1 that Gavin Newsom, proposed, and it's passing, right? Or it's passed. He was saying that he wants to do rehab centers for the homeless. But in his own city, he's doing this crap. So what is it then? He's flip-flopping, and it's like in real time. And I haven't seen anybody really put that together, but he's saying that he wants to do rehab centers, yet San Francisco's throwing $5 million into kegs for an unlimited supply of alcohol for these homeless people. So I don't know. I mean, again, he could just be, oh, we're going to throw out everything that sounds good and get as much money as we can. I don't know. But that's pretty weird. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up was, we talked about it on a few podcasts ago. Oregon.
Yes.
What do they do? Right?
Put back.
They legalized all drugs, and it turned into the Wild West out there. And that really just shows the actual true effects. You think in your head, oh, okay, people aren't going to be caught for a small amount of drugs for this and that. And a lot of people think that, especially here in California. And I know that there was a lot of people going, that's the right move. We're criminalizing too many things. However, you look at the actual real reality results of what happened in Oregon, and you can see exactly what the domino effect has. And I just want to kind of leave that there. We're seeing this in real time right now on what, these city officials are doing, and we have no idea what's San Francisco's. I mean, I didn't think that it could get worse.
But neither did I, Anthony. I was talking to my brother who's on the show sometimes. I said the same thing to him. It's like,
yeah,
you think it can't get worse? and then you slap your head. Oh my God, it got worse.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to bring those two things up, and I thought that was a weird little, I don't know if that's the right word, but conundrum that Gavin Newsom kind of has himself in right now. And I think people are going to start thinking like, hey, why are you funding the downfall of all these homeless people when in the bill or the proposition you just touted, you said you're going to do the opposite of that. So I don't know. We'll see.
Well,
You know,
this is what happens when you're all political and no principled. This is what happens. Anthony Jackson,
yes, sir.
it's always a pleasure to have you here on the show. And as always, we appreciate what you do behind the scenes and get everything hooked up for us and make it work and even polish this turd, make it look somewhat presentable. So with that,
That's the hardest part.
I'm sure it is. Listen, God bless you all, everybody. We will see you next time in your Leo Nation. Keep the faith. Stay safe. Take care of your family.